The Way of Will John.
Hey, I'm honored to be here. I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm 𝗍𝗪𝗡𝗟 because I grew up with the worst knees of anyone I knew, had different surgical alterations. I was always prevented from my knees going over my toes. I wanted to be a basketball player. It wasn't happening. Super slow, couldn't jump because my knees were always holding me back. And I got a clue from an Olympic trainer that actually the knee that can go farthest and strongest over the toes is the most protected. And so then I just made my whole life's focus trying to, figure that out. Can I bulletproof my knees? And it turns out I actually could bulletproof them beyond the norm. And with more bulletproof knees, like I said, I was super slow. I couldn't jump high. So then I started thinking, well, shit, maybe I could even change how I run, change how I jump. So now I have a very optimistic view on what we can do, not just with our skills in our sports, but with our body. So I've been able to get fast and jump high. So for basketball, for me, I had long given up on the idea of dunking, for example. And now it's like, holy crap, I wish I knew how easy it would have been to change my jumping back then. So I live a pretty simple life now, and I just work helping people do the workouts that I did to get more bulletproof and be able to run faster and jump higher.
So that is how I found you. That is how I discovered you, which was funny enough. Someone mentioned it to me. He's a guy that was a professional footballer. He lives in the UK now. He's in his 40s, but he stumbled upon your stuff, mentioned it, and it didn't stick. I didn't know who. He said knees over toes. I didn't quite catch it. Someone else, a fan of our channel, says, you got to get this guy on the podcast. You got to get this guy. We got to get some videos. You got to collab with this guy because he knows his shit. And so then I obviously did my research on you. And so you'll be happy to know I've taken the last 30 days since we, it's been about 30 days, a little more than 30 days since we've been in contact trying to get this down. And I have been doing a whole host of stuff from you. Now, guys, he has an unbelievable YouTube channel, which obviously we'll link down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's right there in the description or the show notes. And you have a ton of exercises. And I know you have programs out there because I'm assuming what you would get in a program is an even more structured, straight up, this is, and maybe a pathway for guys that are trying to. So I took the time after finding out who you were, what was going on, clearly seeing that this is no nonsense. We have a very, and obviously you're coming from basketball and you're not into soccer maybe, but we have similar teaching styles where the idea is to take the complex issue that people are having problems with and simplify it so people can take action steps and then immediately be awesome, And so I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of explain why this is making you faster, what someone can do, because everybody who's here and they're seeing clips of you dunking and the guys you've talked about and all this stuff, from the guys that just want to get faster, what do they do? The guys that want to have their knees, and why is all this connected? Just maybe you could give some sort of practical advice for. Obviously, we know why you wanted to do it, but from there,
I think I can simplify that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I can simplify that. And for soccer, speed is money. Speed is the dunk of basketball. So if we just think about exercise in the modern day, like we all know we need to exercise. All the top teams have trainers. Like it's a thing now, right? Like it's not just sport. It's like, how do we train for our sport? But if we really break that down, well, let's look at people having success with making physical changes and these exercises that we do. They almost all are coming from sports like powerlifting, like other sports, like, okay, squat, bench, deadlift. That's a sport. So, okay, you want to do squat, bench, deadlift for soccer. I'm not saying that that's bad, but I'm just saying that those three exercises, okay, let's say you jack up your squat, bench, deadlift. Well, those aren't all the exact muscles that go into running. But if you channeled that exact same energy into literally the muscles that make you run, you can run faster. Just like any powerlifting coach, if you said, yeah, I've, never lifted weights. Can I get stronger? Of course you can get stronger. There's no such thing as someone who can't get stronger. There's no such thing as someone who can't run faster. But if squat, bench, deadlift is our main focus, well, that's powerlifting. What does Usain Bolt's body have? that's different from a powerlifter. Why isn't the powerlifter? Why doesn't he just go show up and win the 100 meters and clean up some gold medals while he's at it?
Right.
It doesn't mean those muscles aren't involved somewhat, but that is not a system of measurable overload lifting to run faster. So in my pursuits, I broke my high school speed record. And I don't mean for speed, I mean for lack of speed. So in America, they care about the 40-yard dash. And I ran a 6-second 40-yard dash while leading the high school team in scoring in basketball. So, I mean, I was obsessive about my skills, best player on the team, yet I had the slowest 40-yard dash in team history. So even once I fixed my knees, fixing my knees only told me I've been lied to my whole life. Our genetic potential is greater than we know, but there is no system of lifting for knees. So I made a system of lifting for knees, and it's the same thing for speed. But you have to have a system of lifting that's actually for speed, not for powerlifting. CrossFit's a sport, powerlifting's a sport, Olympic weightlifting is a sport. Yet we're using those tools to try to run faster, and they could help somewhat, but those are not an exact system of lifting measurably for speed.
I mean, that goes without saying. And I've gone through a long journey myself as a soccer player, trying to test, and you go through supplements and things like that. I mean, there's some other things that I definitely want to touch on, but even in a more practical sense, I can say.
And I don't take any supplements of any kind.
You don't take.
So hopefully we can just scratch that one off. If you're listening,
yeah,
you don't need money or supplements to run faster, nor do I use any expensive equipment. And we'll break down a system of lifting for speed with measurable targets that people could listen to this and then go find out, how do I run faster based on where I am now versus these areas that I can train. So let's keep going.
That is huge. It's funny because I started off with, as a young 19-year-old, get into the pro world and all that stuff. You're looking for answers on how you're going to get an edge. And that's what everybody is always after. And it's hilarious that come to this point of my career now, and I have ginger tea. I have some omega-3 fish oil. I don't know if you want to count those. Like, it's fish oil. It just diminished. Everything kind of just went down. And I'm okay. Everybody's different, and I get that. But I think there's some truth in that. And I just want to note, out of the things that you're definitely going to break down here, and I've loved a ton of the exercises. I don't know the names, so you're gonna have to bear with me as I explain some of those things.
Oh, and we'll have the editor can pull up the visual, exactly. And we'll look at it exactly.
Exactly. That would be awesome. Right. Even if you have a video or a link or which video he should pull up right now, we can just break that down. And I mean, I'd love to tell you what I've been doing, because it's actually just, I have results. I have results to report to you. I'm curious what to change, and I'm curious also.
You report first.
Okay.
And then let's go further. So you report first, and then let's go further.
All right. I have right in front of me essentially my routine. There's a few. I kind of scoured your videos and chose maybe 6 or 7 of the things that I heard you say are essentially essential to, boosting your speed, bulletproofing your knees, and even your vertical, which I haven't really tested, but I know I'm faster. That I can be sure of, because that's measured. But hamstring curls. So the ones that you're seated, and you're obviously, all the guys here that are listening, you guys have probably done this in preseason at least a little bit. And you're on your knees, someone holds your ankles, kind of bend down and possibly bend back up, but none of you guys are gonna be able to do that. I can't, I still can't do it. And it takes a while, right? So that was the first.
The faster guys will be able to do it. I was personally training the fastest baseball player, who actually has a build like a soccer player, because he's like 5'9".
Wow.
He's on a $365 million contract. Pretty good for
not bad
sport. I'm not sure how they come up with these numbers, like, 300 million.
Yeah.
Anyways, he was able to do these Nordics with perfect form from day one. Okay. I was just helping him with a plan for an issue going on in his knee, which we've now been able to get symptom free. But the point is that he could already do this naturally. And it took me like 2.5 years, to do what he could do naturally.
Right.
So some people actually will be able to do this, and it's just one piece of it. But let's just look when we're running. So, what makes that different than like a squat or a deadlift? Like a squat or a deadlift, the force is up and down. So we want to be strong in our legs and our back. But now what turns that into then going horizontally? Okay. So squat or deadlift, pushing up and down, very necessary strengths. I do them in unorthodox ways because I don't want to get hurt in the process of trying to be the best athlete I can be. So we strengthen the legs. We strengthen the legs in, one side at a time with greater, range of motion. But the concept is the same. We want to be strong pushing that way. But now to turn that into actual speed, that Nordic is going to be the foundation. And the difference between if you go to the gym and you have a hamstring curl machine, that would be better than nothing. But if you try the hamstring curl machine, you'll find that the toughest part is when you go into the contracted position. Whereas a Nordic, let's pull up, if you just go on YouTube and search how to do a Nordic, my video should come up first, unless someone on YouTube is trying to prevent the gains. All right, so go to the start of that, the very start, and pause it at the start. Go to the very start and pause. Okay, right there. There's no tension yet. And when we run, that's not the point of tension. When we run, the point of tension is when the leg is going towards a straightened position. So now play it. And now ready, right when the leg lengthens. So play it. And ready, yep. So see, now it's getting tougher.
Right.
That's where the foot is striking when we run. You see what I mean? So the point is that this is much harder and much more specific for running than a leg curl machine, though I have nothing against a machine. But now also let's break this down. That bench right there is $500, but a new hamstring curl machine costs about $4,000, and you'll find them in every local gym is going to have a $4,000 hamstring curl machine. Yet no local gym is going to have a $500 machine. What if you got as strong on that as your buddies were on push-ups? Or how many push-ups can you do? You should be able to do as many Nordics as you can do push-ups.
Right.
Now, who has actually tried that? Well, I've tried that. You know who else has tried that? Jonathan Edwards worked on his Nordics once a week for 20 years and won his first Olympic gold in the triple jump at age 34 with gray hair. This guy
right here. Yeah.
And he had the fastest approach in triple jump history. So no wonder he broke the record. If you have a faster entrance to the triple jump, well, you have the potential to go farther. So not that many people, even though it seems like common sense, not very many people have tried what happens. Not if I do it for 8 weeks in preseason. Not if I just resist down. Yeah, resisting down, do that for 12 weeks. I suggest doing that and just fighting down for 12 weeks. But then we actually want to get to the ability to explode up. And then we want to get to the ability to drop ourselves and catch ourselves without touching and come back up. So I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's practical. I'm not saying that you're not going to have to really figure out how to do it. But let's pull up one more video just to give an example. Yeah. And I mean, you saw me doing it there with the dumpster. So I'm just saying that, like, if you don't have the guts to do it, that's on you. I'm giving you the data. I'm paving the way for gyms to go, well, shit, we could save a lot of money and bulletproof the ACL a lot more, because the way that the Nordic works, it's attaching from the back of the thigh to the front of the shin bone, just like your ACL does. Meaning you get 1% stronger on a Nordic, you just got 1% more protected in your ACL. Okay. Life is freaking hard. We might as well at least put the odds in our favor. Sure. We're all going to die. If any of us jump off a skyscraper, our knees are going to explode. There's no absolute protection or absolute longevity, but there is measurably putting those odds in our favor. So that guy that you just saw right there, he's doing that at 35 years old. He was leading the NHL hockey in scoring at 35 years old. And in his gym, his trainer wrote up an article and it said, at the time that he did that, he was the only guy out of 25 pro hockey players who could do that. Okay. So here I am. When I saw that, I was at home and I couldn't do it, and I wasn't even one of the 25 who couldn't do it. I was one of the guys on the sidelines who didn't even make it to the pro level. You know what I mean? Right. So I was even worse than the guys who couldn't do it. So it took me a lot of work to figure out. So, but when I saw that and looking back, now I'm like, that trainer missed out on gold. No offense. Get the other 24 guys to do it. Yeah. That's where the gold is not by showing off the guy who can naturally do it. So many guys will be able to naturally do this. Okay. But let's put this into relative perspective. What did I say first? That the squat and deadlift force, that force matters because imagine if you just had a string for a body with no quads. If you had no quads, that exercise becomes easier. You have less weight. So the Nordic only helps you harness your leg and glute and lower back power. Do you see that? So it's like how much leg, glute, lower back power do you have? Then the Nordic helps you turn that into horizontal speed.
Totally.
So the Nordic doesn't make you run. The Nordic makes your quads and glutes turn into horizontal speed.
So then what about how, in an even more practical sense, you said he trained it once a week. What are guys supposed to do? They hear this, they see this.
Train it once a week.
Once a week at 10 reps, 5 reps. I think you mentioned something about 5 seconds.
5 sets of 5.
5 sets of 5.
5 sets of 5 once a week. Give yourself at least, 2.5 years, because not just me, there's been other football players who went from like unrecruited to then first round draft picks. And the common theme seems to be that it took about 2.5 years for someone who sucks at them to really get good at them. So, and even if you were, again, it's like, you're going to keep training. Even if you're the best athlete in the world, you're going to keep doing your jumping jacks and your push-up. Like, this is a way of life for me once a week. So what's crazy is I'm 30. I know I'll be faster when I'm 40. I sure as heck know I'll be faster at 35 than I am now, because I'm going to keep training that once a week, while other people do it for 8 weeks in preseason for a few sets. You see, like, it's just you wouldn't expect to be the world's strongest bench presser. So it's the same concept as the people who do get strong, but applied for an athlete.
Yeah.
And I do want to pull up one more video, because
let's do it.
The most practical way I found to work on that, well, what's the most proven, simplest way to support our body weight is those doorway chin-up bars. So do me another search on YouTube. Okay. This one's a new video, so you might have to go to mine. And how to do a Nordic from home, or you can do a Nordic from home, something like that.
Okay.
All I've got here is I've got a doorway chin-up bar, which is already proven if you set it up right, you can hold your whole weight. Mm-hmm. Now, this is when I was testing it out, so I was a little bit scared, and I had my wife like sit on it. I didn't want to be mid-video and have it fly off, but I've since tried it. But still, the point is, like, if you live at home, you probably have a buddy or someone if you want to, make sure that it's held down. But I've also done it without her sitting on it for the extra support. So I just have a ton of padding under my knees, and I'm using a $20 doorway chin-up bar. So that's the most practical way I've found. Okay. But again, look at what these teams are investing in their bodies. They should have 6 Nordic benches. They could get 8 Nordic benches for the price of 1 hamstring curl machine. So if I'm coaching a team, I'm like, I want the whole team, everyone on the team to be able to do Nordic. I didn't do this with the soccer team. I did it with the football team, American football. And I had the 300-pound dudes doing Nordics. If you want to get mad college scholarships, these Division I coaches are walking in, seeing 300-pounders doing Nordics. They can jump up and grab the rim. They can run at 300 pounds and stuff like this. Beasts. Again, it took work, and it's so intense. You want to try to do it every day, but it's so intense. I just advise 5 sets of 5 once a week. There's an example of my mom regressing it. So my mom's 67. My mom can run pretty freaking fast for 67. Like, she shocks people. But again, it's just physics, and she works on her Nordics once a week, and so she runs really fast.
Unreal.
For 67. So
that one alone, and I listened to that. I heard the 5 sets 5 times with I think you had a timer about a minute, something like that. And I've been somewhere around that when I feel good, and I because it was so cool to see progress even after this week by week by week, that I'm like, oh wow, like I can I'm not pushing up. I've seen the kind of the ways to go, you can lean up against a chair or a pad like that to kind of work on regressing. And so I've done a lot of that, and it's just so crazy. It's kind of addictive, to be honest, because as you start to feel this power that you've not really felt, because I think it's a case of non-concentrated effort and attention to a part of the body that clearly is doing more for us that we just don't know about. And it's not like you're selling some crazy wacko juice. You're just like, okay, you guys have figured out that it's kind of important, so you'll do it sometimes, but you're not going to do it all the time. And so I think that is, the key in that. And if we, kind of move down the line, the next thing that I have really taken a liking to is, I'm going to just call it the toe lift. I don't know if you called it a toe lift. Your back is up against the wall. You've got your legs extended out straight, and then you're just lifting your toes because
Let's search for that one. Try searching Tibialis Raise. We'll see. I don't know where my YouTube search.
Good luck trying to spell that, let's try Tibialis, Titas.
I do want to say one more thing about the Nordic. Last thing I'm going to say, because the top one there. If you click on that, people can start watching what you're talking about while I give my little closing. If we're in a court of law and I'm trying to just justify the case for the Nordic.
Yeah.
So, because some people will say, like, oh, if it's that simple as doing the Nordic, like, why isn't it more common or whatever? Jonathan Edwards' world fucking record still stands from the 1990s. That's fucking why, because we're fucking up. That's why.
Yes.
It still stands. He finished in the 20s at the Olympics. Then 4 years later, manages to make another Olympics, finishes in the 20s. 4 years later, finishes like second or fourth or something. And then 4 years later, in his fourth Olympic cycle, in your fourth Olympic cycle, you're supposed to be
going
on
down
the sidelines crippled. You're not supposed to even be competing, let alone winning a gold medal.
Right.
So, I mean, that's why it's a hidden gem, and the world takes certain forms. Like I said, walk into your local gym and they will have a leg curl machine, but they won't have a Nordic bench, even though it's simpler, way simpler to design and make and use and much cheaper. So it's certain things in the world we've missed out on.
Totally.
Anyways, that was my closing speech.
Totally. I love it, though.
Break his world fucking record, and then we'll talk.
Yeah. There's nothing else that you can literally say. And it is a results-based thing. It's based on competence. If that's what's missing, you really did it the right way. I mean, I love that your search led you to that. It was like, let me just look at who's doing stuff that's incredible and then figure out the common denominator between them and then put that together. That's it. That's essentially how I've been describing you, with all the stuff that you've done. So yeah, maybe you want to talk about the tib raise and
there's no long-term studies. There's no long-term studies on the Nordic, and even the short-term studies, some of them conclude like, well, we don't know if it makes you run faster, but it makes you twice as less likely to injure your hamstring. Number one, if you're twice as less likely to injure your hamstring, you're going to be able to put more intention. You don't get fast in 8 weeks. You get fast in 8 years. Right. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It's just an obvious tool in the box. Anyways, so yeah, the tibialis, I think, is huge if you want to run faster, because the faster you run, the harder you're going to have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And now if you have shin splints or knee pain from the stopping, you're going to restrict yourself. So I think there's something there that the better your decelerators, which no one is training, and by no one, I mean 99.999% of athletes are not training their tibialis muscles, again, with the same reps that they do crunches and sit-ups and push-ups and pull-ups. Like, obviously we want to be strong. That's a soccer muscle right there. Like, big time soccer muscle is that tibialis raise. So, and that's so simple. You literally just need a wall, and it doesn't look like much. I dare you to do 25 reps.
It's hard. Yeah, for sure. That was hilarious to see, is that you just look like you're just raising your toes up, and you start to say, okay, I've not been, and you say 99.9, it's 100%, Ben. I'm sorry. I've played all over the world, in many different countries, had some of the top, if not the top, guys that you're going to see training, this guy and that guy and these big clubs. No one's ever mentioned any of this at all, ever. So it's not.
And the players are suffering, and the players are suffering from foot and shin and knee. It's not like I'm not trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. So many of us are in pain,
right.
For that one. And when we hang up today, you got to send me your shipping address, because any gadgets I talk about,
sure.
That I have access to, I'm going to send to you. So
Love
now
it.
search first line of defense against knee pain should bring up. That's the body weight version of tibialis, which is how I built my foundation. But a buddy of mine in Australia was like, look, what piece of equipment needs to exist that doesn't? And I was like, well, they used to make something decades. Yeah, the top video there. They used to make something decades ago. This bar right here was out of existence, not being produced anywhere.
Okay.
My buddy brought it back. He now has like an Olympic collar, so you can just like bring it with you to the gym and like use Olympic plates. And so that's my curl right there.
Got you.
So I know I can play so hard when I play basketball, because while other people are doing curls, I'm doing curls for the muscle below my knee, for the shin right there. I can decelerate so hard because that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking for world-class deceleration. And it doesn't put a bunch of weight on your leg. If you gained any weight in your leg from that, we're talking like an ounce. It's not just going to balloon up in size.
Right.
My point being that for speed, I feel like this is one of the things that really unlocks the speed, because you're going to trust your speed. It's going to help you get your foot off the ground quicker, and it's not going to weigh you down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, anyways, you've been trying the bodyweight version. I'm going to send you. Okay. I'm going to send you this bar when we hang up today.
Absolutely would love this. Beyond. Can't even tell you, because
I'm sending it right away.
I also picked out some of the information that you said and stated, which was about ankle mobility, which is also another thing that, it gets a little talk about, but obvious, if your ankles are weak, you're possibly sending some pain up to your knees and maybe your hips. And obviously, this is your first defense against, as you state, when you hit the ground and when you're hitting that, it's boom, it's got to go through your ankle and then it's going to get transferred up your body. So in order to, I did see this, but what I've been using, it was kind of weird for me to try and figure out. I had an elastic band. And so I just kind of needed to hook it under a table in order to get that sort of same motion, to get some resistance, because after doing the toe raises for a while, I started to see you doing them on an incline. Or is that, yeah.
You can try them single-legged as well. Single-legged.
Oh, I've not tried that.
Tough.
I've not tried that.
Same exact form.
Okay.
Single-legged. That's what I do now when I do them bodyweight.
Nice.
I do them single-legged.
So yeah, I just kind of went with that, and then I'm just thinking in my head, like, where in God's name am I going to find something like this? Yeah. So yeah, I would love that.
I don't have a video of single-legged public on there because people would just ruin the form.
Sure.
It really hits hard with 2 legs for 25 reps.
Totally.
You were using a band.
So yeah.
And when you use a band, you can get a really good pump, and that's really good. But it's kind of like this. Let's say you didn't have access to the gym. A power lifter might grab a band and work the pecs, but you ain't really gonna drive up your bench press unless you bench a fucking bar and you know how much weight is on the bar. So that's why I like the Tibialis bar, because I know how much weight is on there. It's just different when it's the same ego-driven. I know how much weight is on the bar. So for male athletes, 20% of body weight. So let's say you weigh 80 kilos, 16 kilos. Can you do that for 20 strict reps? Most people cannot do that. Most people can do that when they actually train it consistently, and then they're able to just play the sport harder. So you see the difference. So it's not that the band is bad. Use the band, use the bodyweight version, but get yourself a freaking bar, because again,
that's where the gains are.
Walk in, you have your lat pull down machine that costs thousands of dollars. Let's compare for soccer. How much is this going to relate? Maybe for celebrate, you have those lats like Ronaldo. Get good at your chin-ups. Get good at your chin-ups. But how much sense does it make to be good at that and not good at the shit that you actually need? Exactly. And the best players, their tibialis are popping out. Like they could be like tibialis models. Right. And the worst of us, we have shit we're all starting somewhere.
Sure.
We're only replicating what the genetic freaks have naturally, And if you look at an athlete like Ronaldo or like a Russell Westbrook in basketball, and you look at how aggressively he plays, I wasn't putting that kind of force into my leg. So he was handling that force for years and years. So those muscles, they're there. Now, even for him, if he maybe encountered an injury and now didn't realize that he was now losing something. So even if you are the best naturally, by at least knowing what these areas are, then if you encounter an injury or if you want to keep playing longer, it just puts you more in control. And
that's also a thing, which is I wanted to go to, because obviously, like I said, I saw you with the bulletproofing knee thing. And if we go to my next drill that I at least have been doing, or exercise, you want to say, one that looked awkward to me and strange. But I saw you talk about, and maybe this one has to do a bit more with vertical, but since they're all connected, it's somewhat of a toe tap. It's a partial squat with my toe touching out. Maybe you can explain what that is and why, or we can throw it up.
Yeah. I'm trying to think the best video for that one.
It might be in the same as the Tibialis
people mess up
vid. I think I've seen that.
People mess up the form, not an hour.
No?
If you go to a video, there is one video. And if you look up condensed, it's a new video, condensed version of what we need to know about knees, something like that. Condensed version of what we need to know about knees. It should pull it up. People mess up the form a lot. So I have to be careful, like with what, if I put out some data, I know people are going to try it. So I have to make sure it's something that's like more on the safe side. People are going to try it. Now you might have to scroll through this video to find doing like a reverse step up. And we do a variety of these reverse step ups, but yeah, it's a step up, but not stepping up forwards. You're on the box and you're stepping and then going backwards. So it's a reverse step up.
There it is.
That one right there is showing the most regressed, like literally using assistance. But if you look at the setup I had there, I was also doing it with the weight on my back. So I'm doing a reverse step up.
Right.
You can do it with body weight. I think that's the exercise you're talking about.
Yeah. I think so. Well, if I'm 100% correct, and obviously you're doing this in this, you're also explaining the knees over toe kind of squat and lunge thing. But that was one that I saw. It looked like you're on one leg, you're slowly partially squatting, and you had your heel tap the ground, and then you came right back up, which is what it looks like there. Similar, yep. But I saw you do it on the ground.
I WhatsApped you the form video that I use.
Okay. Well, I don't have it. Maybe it went to Santiago, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Santiago can check it out.
Okay.
But yeah, so if you were to watch a player go to decelerate to kick the ball, you would see that this kind of motion happens like every single time. Or if you go to jump, this kind of emotion happens into our knees and ankles every single time. So it's a little bit more relative than a squat where you're just like maybe sitting back, because that force is coming forwards into your knee and ankle. But again, it's something, you saw how I showed it, that you can like balance. Like a lot of people will have to start out with assistance. So you have,
sure.
I think of leg exercises as 3 levels. There's like literally assisting yourself. Then there's doing it with your body weight, and then there's adding load. So grandma could help rehabilitate the ability to go down steps without pain by using assistance, or an athlete who is actively like has patellar tendonitis or something.
Sure.
You can like wipe that shit out with this kind of an exercise, but it's a strength. If you're weak when you decelerate with your knee over your toe, like what do you think is happening when you play your sport? And maybe your adrenaline is going, so you don't feel it in the game, but then it swells up after, or it's tender after. If you look at the motions that hurt and you put them in slow motion and then you put it on rewind, you can actually like create a system to prevent your pain. Because if you now turn that into your strength training, so like a deadlift, that's like your hip exploding out. A deadlift is like your potential to injure your knee, or that's your potential to put force in. So again, it's not that we want to be weak in the glutes and the lower back, but we want to be built from the ground up. We want to be able to handle what our glutes and our lower back can put out.
Get it.
So by reducing that pain, you're definitely going to be able to run faster. And if you look at that motion, when we're running, there's that really elastic, like our knee is kind of going over our toes a bit, like every single stride. And so there's, how much ground contact time are we spending? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we can get, quicker, stiffer off the ground with those kind of reverse step ups.
Then let's touch on that, because you just talked about the knee over toe. What about that exercise? I mean, that's one that you demonstrate a whole lot. Is this something that has to be added in there? Is the guys got to worry about form? And you cited a Duke research paper that apparently is the reason why everyone's like, don't put your knees over, like, and then we just kind of, we were all like, okay.
I mean, I try not to cite any research papers of any kind anymore, but there have been research papers from like the 70s that said, like, all they did is just test like the force of exercises. And they found like when your knee goes over your toes, it puts more pressure on your knees. Now it's just up to us how we interpret that. I would go, okay, well, if I don't want my knee to explode and be in pain when I play sports, I'd like to be good at that.
Right.
So a lot of people interpreted it to avoid, and that's why I'm not knees over toes guy for no reason. I went to trainer after trainer who trained me. Don't let your knees over your toes. So they were just commanding me not to get better with my knees over our toes. Watch Messi or any of these guys in slow motion, and you're going to see the amount of force with their knees over their toes. And the stiffer, slower, less agile guys use less knees over toes. They can't trust that position as much. The best athletes in basketball, like Michael Jordan, you'll almost be in pain watching if you watch him in slow motion. His knees are practically touching the floor all the time. He's 6'6", but then could get this low from his knees, So the top running backs, those guys who have to be crazy shifty, they're just able to get their knees more over their toes. How shifty could you be with a completely stiff leg? Imagine literally sewing up so that your knees could not bend and your legs are straight. You'd get tackled instantly. You wouldn't have any of that shiftiness. So that's like, sometimes it takes rewinding something and realizing where we've gone wrong. If your legs were completely straight, meaning if you restricted knees over toes in sport, you literally wouldn't be able to play your sport. You would look like an absolute joke, and you wouldn't even be able to get to any kind of level in your sport. And then the top guys have more knees over toes. But what if you're like me and you don't have much knees over toes, and you're in pain trying to have your knees over your toes? Get good at that, because I was here, the top athletes are here. So my career is just figuring out what already existed. Like, I'm not even making anything up. It's just finding, like, how do you get to what you want if you're not? So that was my blessing, was that I was the slowest guy on my team. You know what I mean? The guy who had the worst knees on the team.
I'm because of your saying that, and because, noting guys like Messi and stuff like that. Titas, can you pull up Zlatan? Have you ever seen Zlatan Ibrahimovic? Do you know who that is? Yeah. Have you seen him do that weird bend down thing that he does?
Insane. That's literally like an exercise that we train, that you start like assisted, that I do all the time. Everyone sends that to me when he does it. That's literally, Zlatan's knees are as far over his toes as he can. I'm not saying that the solution is to work through pain on that, but I'm just saying the best of the best can do this kind of shit, And that would have I would have cringed, to look at this, but now I can do this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So then how specifically, because you didn't even necessarily go through it, how to train that then? I mean, if he's doing that, I mean, okay, we've touched on a couple of it. I've seen you do a kind of lunge, knee over toe squat.
If you go to my Instagram page, I posted that yesterday.
Okay.
So if you go to my Instagram page and look at my most recent post, you'll see me training that position in a safe manner.
Okay.
That's TikTok.
Yeah. You knees over toes on Instagram as well? Go to Instagram, Titas. You're in YouTube.
Instagram is where I started and where I have the most followers.
Did you really? You started on Instagram?
I used to only do Instagram. Only recently have I done YouTube and TikTok.
Okay.
This post.
Oh, wow.
This is so safe to start with two hands. Now notice, that's step 6.
Okay.
So it's not like I'm even jumping into that. It's always optional. So these other exercises help to then be able to do that.
Okay.
And then back out of that one, and you'll see that I also do a version essentially where, all right, look at the post under that where I'm about to like jump off something. All right. So I also do this exercise. Watch the landing and watch me put the knees over my toes without assistance.
Whoa.
You see that? So like I also do this where I do that exercise with full control, but you can't get if you noticed when Zlatan did it, he was in a position more like when I land, like right there.
Yeah.
So like that's a position the body can hold. Now, if you take it all the way back, just by the nature of it, you'll probably like lose balance or fall over. Okay. Obviously, it's safer someone to start with like assistance and get into those positions and gradually turn on the muscles. But when I teach that exercise, it's taught from a perspective of you probably don't need this to have a good quality of life, but it might prevent you from having a major injury or unlock some additional quad gains, because from Zlatan to Michael Jordan has often landed like in that position and he pops up fine. And I can show you video after video of other NBA players landing in that position and tearing their knee and really destroying their career. So it's like, you probably don't need to do that full lean back, maximum knees over toes. You probably don't need to do that. If you wanted to, if you couldn't, and the top athletes can, well, my job is at least to show you a safe, route to get there.
Right.
So usually it would be progressing from assisted. Okay. And then a good mark would be, I'll just show you here. It's like a good rule of thumb would be with the glutes locked. So notice the glutes are so like I can't use my hips.
Right.
Being able to like your heels for 25 reps. But notice what's occurring in my body. Knees over toes is the only thing. So this is like a push-up for knee bulletproofing. But if that hurt, then you'd be making yourself worse probably by trying to push through the pain. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's gradual.
So that's also step 6. So you have like, even if you never did that, you'd probably be able to do that if you did steps 1 through 5. I like having a variety of tools. Like notice I said with the Nordic, we do it once a week. I feel like you can get into trouble by trying to say like what's the number one exercise and then like overdoing that. So I like having some tools, and you can see now, like it's cold. I can do that shit cold now. You know what I mean? But when I was the slowest guy on the team and was having knee surgeries, I probably would have injured myself trying to do that. So of course, basketball has become easy now, whereas the same game used to be hard. But I train my muscles. Anyone can get better at push-ups. That was just a push-up for my quads.
I get it. And
so a soccer player, you don't even need. I'd have my whole team where at the end of practice, I'd have my guys, everyone able to do 25 of those without pain. And if they did have pain, I wouldn't criticize them for the pain. I would regress it, and they would then put in extra work to be able to do that without pain.
Sure.
If guys finished their soccer practice doing 20, you'd probably have the hardest kicking fucking team too. If your team could all do Nordics, if you could all do Nordics and those knees over toes squats, holy shit. And how much equipment do you need for that one? 0.
That is the thing.
A stairwell and your body. Truth is simple, not more complex. When you see these flashing lights in the training, I see them kissing goodbye their ability to actually change their body. They're going in the wrong direction. And no offense to anyone who sells those flashing lights, but
wait, are you talking about those lights with the where you touch
you know
thing?
What I'm talking about, where it's right?
Oh God, we have a whole.
I'm just talking about
yes.
I'm just talking about. I'm not even saying that's wrong, but someone will go do a workout and not do a Nordic and not get their quads stronger, and then wonder why they have knee pain and why they're slow. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, you're going to get what you ask for. I think a soccer ball, your body, some open space.
There you go.
I think you could get pretty fucking good at soccer.
That's
pretty sure the best players in history got good at soccer that way.
Like that. And that's it. That is the ethos of our stuff. And a lot of the training and a lot of the success that we've had as a channel and a company has been in allowing guys to go to the field with just a ball and be able to train. You don't need, it's great when you have a teammate and you have guys out there and you have cones and gear and all. It's awesome, guys, but if you can rely on these things, and there are things that you can do, and not only are these things, there are things that you can do, but these are the best things that you can do. And it just turns out you can do them alone, and that is the truth also within soccer. You will have to test yourself in games and stuff like that. But if you can figure that out, then that's the promised land. And so,
technology has 2 angles of it. So the fact we're conversing right now, awesome.
Sure.
But if I'm going out on a date with my wife and we're both on our phones texting, thumbs down.
There you go.
We leave our phone, we put the technology aside. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Want to have a better sex life?
Yeah.
Put the porno down.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And spend more time with real women. I'm just saying, it can go either. But we have to be able to distinguish that. You know what I mean?
It's a tool.
So, exactly. And with certain things, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Somehow, Michael Jordan got good at basketball. Somehow, these players got good at soccer. So maybe there are times that technology can help us improve, but we still have to be able to, it's not just a guarantee. So we have to be able to look at, each tool and each piece of technology. And when it comes to changing the body, I found that less is more. And the more that's being added to it, I found actually the worse the results.
That's literally the thing that we are coming to the same conclusion. I have one more exercise that I want to ask you about, because I've seen it and I think it's also clearly useful. But just to touch on your last point, we've been in contact, and kind of God bless them in a certain sense, these AI companies and these virtual reality companies, and they'll want to advertise things to our fans and stuff like that. And our first question to them is always, why do we need you? Because if you're going to force yourself onto the field, then we don't need you until, and it's my thought that augmented reality will be the one that will be most beneficial to sports, in the sense that there will be something for you to jump around. There'll be something in your environment. And I think that that's probably there. But right now, the virtual reality people want me to put on a virtual reality set, then use my hands to dribble myself, even though I use my feet. And I understand that from that you want the mind and the brain. I'm not against all that, clearly. But it does seem that sometimes when they force technology on, we're not getting the same out of it that we should be. And I think they should be trying to solve a problem, not create them and force themselves on. Now, for that last exercise, you want to check, is everything all good?
All right. So here's another one, right? Where, yes, this involves a piece of equipment, but this is a super cheap piece of equipment. And again, you go into every local fitness center, has $100,000 worth of machines there. And this thing's like 60, 70 bucks.
Right.
Not to mention more people could figure out. I was doing this before it existed. I was literally taking strapping weights to my foot and seeing, I want to see how strong I am to lift my foot off the ground. So a lot of slow guys will find they have weak hip flexors. Okay. They can't get whatever force you put out, you then have to pick up your knee. So yeah, if I could only do 2 exercises to take existing training and turn it into horizontal speed, well, just look at your stride. The Nordic and the hip flexor lift. Those would be my bench and my bench and squat right there. I want to be the strongest guy on the court in the hip flexor and the Nordic. That's going to turn it. And then we mentioned the tibialis, and we even mentioned the reverse step up, because if we're going to go faster, we have to break harder. So really all we've mentioned is 4 exercises. That's pretty simple. 2 of them. And we mentioned the lean back, more for like bulletproofing. It's not like that has like a direct, correlation on something, whereas this is more direct. And when they've tested sprinters, the biggest muscular size difference between an elite sprinter and a regular human is the size of the hip flexors. But we don't walk around like, hey bro, have you seen my hip flexors?
Yeah, it's not happening.
It's not. Yeah. Like we see our pec, biceps, quads, maybe even hamstrings. We don't see those hip flexors. So yeah, if I could only have 2 for speed, it would be the Nordic and the hip flexor lift. Both of them, your gym is not set up for. Both of them, very simple. And I'll send you one of those as well. They took it, I think, from like biking technology, like for the foot, and then they just turned it so you just put it onto any dumbbell, and so it turns a dumbbell into a weight on your foot. But I will show you at least there's ways you can work on this, and it's not like the best, but here would be a simple test, not something complicated, not something that everyone can't do, but can you hold your body off the ground?
Sure.
If someone couldn't, then that would be a simple way to know that your hip flexor was too weak.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that you can start on all this stuff. Today, you could start in some way, shape, or form. And then you want to be getting yourself the tools that you need for your sport. It's not your fault that your local 24-hour fitness is not set up for sport. It was designed based on bodybuilding. When did exercise get popular? Arnold Schwarzenegger popularized exercise. Pele didn't popularize exercise. Right. Had he popularized exercise, every gym would have come to these conclusions and had these kinds of tools, right? So a bodybuilder doesn't need, these performance tools or these areas that no one sees. You know what I mean?
That's it.
So the hip flexor. So I'll send you one of those.
Love it.
And I'll send you that tibialis bar, and I'll send you a slant board too, which the slant board really helps to. that really helps develop the legs to then have the stable knees, to have the leg power, because we mentioned we do want leg power. So how do we get that leg power without having to get into like stiffening lifts or super heavy weights? You can get sick legs. All right, I'm at 2%. So let's just look at the last one, because what we haven't mentioned is putting force down. So on YouTube, I made it as a public video recently. I keep some of the form videos public, and it's the first word is vertical jump. So if you just go to my page, it's like vertical jump increase. I just put it out. Vertical jump increase without weights. My video probably, let's see if that pulls up. None of those. Oh, there. The fourth one down is the fourth one down.
Fourth one.
It's not going to be that one. Fourth one down. That one right there. Okay. So this is an exercise that just about anyone could start. And you could start with assistance. So I've helped people in their 70s, 80s, even 90s get into those leg strengthening exercises by using assistance. You put a chair on either side. But now scroll towards the end and you'll see me doing it on one leg in a variety of ways. So again, what equipment is needed? Your body plus a slant board with good grip on it, which you could go build. So you could go build this, let it just play out, because it's going to go to different levels. You can get that force. You see, my legs are not small. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm only training these other areas. I'm also training the ability of my legs and my glutes to put force into the ground. Exactly. And if you think this is easy, the level 5 is hands behind back on one leg. So you can build elite level. Like, this is not easy. You can build elite glutes and legs with literally just a slant that someone could go get a piece of wood, get that wheelchair traction tape. You could build your own. I'm going to send you one.
Love it.
I like to have a board. It keeps it simple, but it's not something you couldn't figure out yourself. So that's where I kind of wanted to finish it off. If you can do those evenly well on either leg, like it's nothing lifting your own weight, for soccer, do you ever need to get under a bar and squat? Hell no, you don't. And most people who get under a bar and squat cannot put their hands behind their back and go that all the way down like that on either leg.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, we'll close it off here, since you've got to go. But guys, you guys have so much information.
We can do a follow up.
We will.
I'm going to send you these tools, so we could do a follow up, and then you could actually just give like your honest, like what you figure out for soccer.
I will document them all 100%. We'll do I did the knees over toes guy routine for X amount. We'll film it all, and we'll do the gains and report.
Do it for 2.5 years, okay?
We'll do it. 2.5 years. We'll be back. No problem. Listen, man, thanks for doing this. These guys are going to enjoy all this. We'll link to everything. You've got great TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, so we'll link out to everything right there. And then I'll get to work once you hook it up. I'll get to work, man.
Hey, I really appreciate that. Send me over your shipping address, and I don't know if your editor wants to try it too.
He's a gym guy. Tita, say something.
Is he? Send me your shipping address as well. Send me your shipping address, and I can get you the slant board and the tibialis bar and that monkey foot.
Okay.
Because as you mentioned, you can also use it to train the hamstring like a leg curl. So you don't have to miss out on the leg curl machine.
Right.
And you only need a $60 tool to mimic a leg curl. And it's with free weight, which I like better, to be honest.
Totally.
And the leg curl machine pads, so it kind of stops you short. But with the monkey foot, you get full range behind the knee. Anyways.
Love it, dude. We'll set it. We'll set it out, man. This has been awesome.